All right, welcome. Thank you, David, for those instructions. So welcome to our webinar about supercharging your affordable housing advocacy with GreenTRIP Connect. I'm Ann Chang. I am the Interim Co-Executive Director at Transform and creator of the GreenTRIP program, which promotes housing for people before cars. And I've been at Transform about 12 and a half years.
Hey everyone, this is David Beezer. I work as a GreenTRIP planner at Transform, going on about 5 years here.
So as folks are trickling in, we'll try to slow this down a bit to catch everyone. For the next hour, we plan to give you a brief background about our More Homes, Less Driving initiative and how GreenTRIP Connect fits into this, and spend most of the time on a demo about how to use the Connect tool, and we'll be saving questions for the end. And I think in our trial run of this, we actually have a lot of time, probably 20 minutes or so for questions. So please, again, as David mentioned, as questions come up, chat them to us, but we will be holding those till the end and try to aggregate any questions and rank them by popularity. So for those who don't know about Transform, our mission is to promote climate protection and social justice through housing and transportation projects and policies from the local to state level. Our More Homes, Less Driving initiative, which is one of 3 of our core initiatives in our strategic plan, is to shape and support the creation of 50,000 new homes and save $2.5 billion on avoided car parking. And if we can do this, we expect to see 185 million fewer miles driven per year. To accomplish this, we need many hands to make light of this work. There are over 400 cities in the state and the equivalent number of planning commissions and city councils deliberating on hundreds of projects every month. That's why we're so thrilled to have such a great response and interest in this training. Of those of you who had signed up, we saw a great diverse representation of folks from community groups to government officials at all scales, as well as developers. And we hope that whether in your day job or as a community member, which we all are in our neighborhoods, with this training, you'll be emboldened to step up and support an affordable housing project in your neighborhood. Having been a council member and mayor in my hometown of El Cerrito, I know firsthand how helpful it is to have just even one local advocate speak out in favor of more homes that are different than what most of us are used to. And too often, we only hear from those who are there to, who are against the project, often resulting in slowing a project enough to kill it. So GreenTRIP Connect is our free online tool we created to help anyone calculate how smart location, affordable homes, and traffic reduction strategies can reduce driving and greenhouse gas emissions from residential development. It also calculates how much money and space can be saved from right-sized parking and reinvesting those instead in more units, deeper housing, and transportation affordability. We're so proud of Connect because we believe it helps to level the information field so that all stakeholders, from government, developers, and especially the community, can access the same credible data and analysis used by developers and government. And we designed this tool to ensure community accessibility from the outset when we developed it in 2016, rather than an afterthought. The tool was also vetted through an academic peer review commissioned by the Strategic Growth Council. So the example we want to use to demo Connect is based in San Jose. And back in 2017, when we were beta testing Connect on a road show around the region, we presented Connect to groups like Somos Mayfair, a community group based in San Jose. So in San Jose, Transform advocated for the construction of a new bus rapid transit line along Alum Rock Boulevard, a major east-west corridor that connects downtown with East San Jose. You can see this little map here, essentially showing downtown and the bullseye where the project is. So in one of the first new housing proposals to surface as BRT began construction was Quetzal Gardens, located literally across the street from a BRT stop, which was currently a parking lot. And this is the kind of affordable TOD which is exactly what Transform has fought for. And we were pleased to see one of our multi-time GreenTRIP certified developers, Resources for Community Development, based in the East Bay, come down to the South Bay to bring their unique mix of building both affordable housing built in with affordable transportation. So with Connect, we wanted to make sure our community partners, like Somos Mayfair, felt empowered to work with the developer to ensure the community needs were met. At the time, our South Bay planner presented Connect to Somos to get their perspective about what transportation options could be considered at the site and to see how deeper affordability resulted in lower traffic and parking demand. And after this initial demo, Somos decided to support our CD and their project to not overbuild car parking, resulting in just under one space per unit, allowing the project to afford free VTA transit passes for 40 years. And that in VTA actually includes both free bus and light rail for everyone over the age of 5. So I want to hand it now over to David so he can explain how you yourself can do this in a project near you.
Yeah, so I'm going to take us over to the Connect tool now. So this is connect.greentrip.org. Like we said, it's free to use, based in the web browser. Anyone with a browser can access this information. So here's the landing page, just to orient ourselves a little bit. Up here is the header where we have all kinds of great links. I encourage you to check out some more information about the history of Connect, our sponsors, institutional community partners. And also I want to point out the methodology. So if you're curious about the behind-the-scenes calculations and formulas that are happening, you can click here and dig into that. So today, I'm going to use Quetzal Gardens as our example. So the first step is to go to this blue box right here and type in the address. So for us, 1695 Alum Rock Ave, San Jose. So now we're actually in the tool. How we laid this out, we have kind of a 3-step process. So step 1 is over here, step 2 and step 3. We handled step 1, typed in our location, great. Step 2, we need to actually pick the parcel for the project. So down here, this probably looks familiar. This is a map, it's based off Google Maps. And what it does is it drops a red pin kind of generally in the project area based on your address. But for the tool to work, you need to actually select the parcel that you'll be developing on. So I just click right here. It's this corner lot. Just click once, and it'll light up purple, show it's selected. And you can actually select multiple parcels if you have a more complex project. So I'll just click over here. And now the analysis will take into account both of these parcels. But for this example, we're just going to use the one lot, so I'm going to click again and remove the parcel. All right, so we got step 2 down. Also want to point out in the corner up here, we have a tour. If in case, you want to go back and have more of a step-by-step guided process, you can just click this button and it'll walk you through basically what I'm doing today. So scrolling down a bit, we have this map here. Want to point out some features here. Even if you're not looking at a specific development, there's some handy features in this map. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. All kinds of great layers up here that you're not going to get with traditional Google Maps. We have things like a transit heat map that shows the average transit trips per hour. You can see the legend up here on the left. Zoom out some. Similarly, we have employment density, jobs per half mile, priority development areas in the Bay Area. Some useful boundaries. We have the MPO boundaries for the whole state of California. Counties, cities, things like that. And just a reminder, this tool, it works for any parcel of land in the state of California. So this is a statewide tool. So I'm going to zoom back into our purple project down here. So like Ann mentioned, this project is right along the new Alum Rock BRT line. So we're actually going to see on the right here, we have transit markers that folks have told us is a very useful feature to see exactly where those bus stops, car share, BRT, rail stops are. And if you zoom in enough, you can click on these icons, and it will tell you exactly which transit operator and which routes are passing through. So this purple one here is our King BRT from VTA. Okay, so we're going to scroll down. We're going to go down here to step 3. This is where you tell us more about the project, put in some inputs. So these are the inputs that are going to actually impact the estimated driving and climate impacts of your project. So the first one is total units. For our example, we have 71. And if you click right here, you can actually add even more detail. I won't do that today, but if you know the exact mix of studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, etc., you can put that in here. And the more fine-grained detail you add, the more accurate the modeling will be. So definitely encourage you to put this information in if you know it. I'm going to hide that. And then this feature right here we're really excited about. This is our low impact parking estimate. And this is this generates the estimated parking spaces that would result in not overbuilding parking, not wasting too much space and money on unnecessary parking spaces. So this is coming from the total number of units and the location of the project, how close it is to transit, jobs, other factors like that. So Connect is telling us 81 spaces is a smart goal to go for, but for this example we can go even lower. So I'm going to click here and enter the actual parking used by Quetzal Gardens, which is 68 spaces. Again, you can add some more detail in this darker gray box here. It's presuming that these are garage structured parking, but if you know more information, definitely encourage you to put that here. If you have lifts, underground garages, surface lots, things like that. So scrolling on down, now we get to the fun part. We're going to put in some traffic reduction strategies, some factors that are going to result in less driving and climate impacts. So the first one here is affordable housing. Will there be affordable units? We're going to click yes. So Connect is the only tool right now that actually allows you to model all the depths of affordability. So you can select here and enter units based on the levels of affordability. So these AMI ranges, and these are based on the traditional ranges using for affordable housing financing. So we're going to start with extremely low income. For our project, we have 17. And then we're going to add 54. very low-income units. Scrolling down some more, we have more GreenTRIP strategies that you can add to the project. This first one is, will there be a charge for parking? So unbundled parking. It's not happening in this project, but this is a key traffic reduction strategy. So if that applies, you can click here. We also have down here resident transit passes. So that is happening for this project. We're going to have 1 pass per unit, and the monthly value is $70 per month. So we just grab the slider, move it over. You can also add car sharing and bike sharing memberships if those apply for your project. So now we're down to the last input. This is a municipal parking requirement. If you know this value, this is helpful for the modeling. Putting in the required parking by your municipality. For San Jose at the time, it was 1.5 spaces per unit. So we'll just type that in there. And now we're done with the inputs. So everything that you told the tool about the project is taken into consideration, and it puts the outputs in this Connect dashboard over here. So there's a lot of information we think will be helpful for your advocacy. I won't go through all of it. The most important kind of outputs are down here in dark gray, this section here. Based on everything we told the tool, so the smart location, near transit, near jobs, in a walkable area, with transit passes, you're going to see 53% less driving compared to a typical project in Santa Clara County. So this is looking at a project with the exact same unit count in an average location of the county. So we're going to see a lot less driving and, related, a lot less climate impact from this project. So these are pretty powerful metrics for anyone to have with a web browser and see that this is not going to create the kind of traffic nightmare that folks might be concerned about. We also have over here parking use prediction. So we're going to see 24% less parking use from this project. Going over here to the left, we have some financial impacts of the project. The first one here is $840 in resident savings per year per household based on the GreenTRIP strategy. So for this project, that's coming from those very valuable resident transit passes. We're also going to see almost $2 million saved on parking construction costs compared to the municipal parking requirement, which we inputted as 1.5 spaces per unit. So lots of great information here. You're still kind of in the tool at this point, so we wanted to create something that's more printer-friendly, that you can print out, email, share in an easier format. So if you come down here to View Project Report, you just click this, and this will take you to the new page. And I'll let Anne walk us through some of the features here.
Right. So this is part of our advocacy toolkit package. What this enables you to do at this stage is you can actually enter some project information to give it a little bit of context. So this is Quetzal Gardens and prepared by David and Anne, and even have some context. If the project is still an exploratory stage or whatever stage it's in, you can note that, and then any additional information here for Connect demo. And what we're excited about is to make sure you know that once you have kind of an iteration of your project scenario, if you hit Generate Link here, you can actually take this URL and share it with your neighborhood community group, with your council member, with the developer, and they'll be able to pick up essentially the project scenario that was that you've generated. Another thing to note at the top here is you can go back and edit the location and inputs. So just know that once you do that and generate another and come back to this report, you'll be generating a new hyperlink with this a unique 5-digit code here. And so additionally, you should know that if you wanted to run a number of reports in different scenarios and actually compare them, and this is probably more for our super users, is you can download a CSV of the inputs and outputs. And finally, you can print the information. As David mentioned, we work to try to consolidate all of this in a easy-to-read, printable report. And so another key feature here that as we were just getting the word out about the tool and we didn't have enough time to explain, but now that we're in this new phase, we really want to encourage you all to make use of this instant advocacy script. And so this section here in the top left corner is written for you to take into a public hearing, into a public meeting, and literally be able to explain the benefits of a project given the inputs you've entered. And so in the case of this project, if it originally didn't include transit passes, we can now say, with the transit passes and this location and level of affordability, it will result in over 1,000 fewer miles driven every day, 53% greenhouse gas impacts, 24% less parking use, and $840 in transportation savings for future residents, and that's at a per unit level. And then with that comparison to the parking requirement and the reduction, this would save almost $2 million in parking construction costs, and the space saved, over 6,000 square feet, would enable an additional 8 housing units if those were about 764 square feet. So to scroll down, you can see you can change the extent of the map. You'll see the dashboard spread out in a much easier to look at way, and I'll just pause here that you can actually change the summary snapshot to reflect building totals from per unit to building total, and then from per day to per year. And you'll see all the features if you've added affordable housing or GreenTRIP strategies, those light up in green. And kind of throughout, we've added tooltips to explain what all these definitions are. So further scrolling down, you can see the default unit mix. The tool is modeling from the parking inputs, the traffic reduction strategy inputs, the affordability levels, and a feature that lots of folks love is that there's an instant inventory of the transit routes within a 1.5 mile of the project site. All right, and so at this point, we'll switch back to the slides, and really we want to see, we hope this will be you right here in front of the council or planning commission in your neighborhood, and we invite you to let us know how it goes in using this tool in your communities in terms of shaping those projects. And kind of next steps after this is we're just looking for folks who want to request trainings. We're starting to schedule out all of that. We can provide this as a webinar or come to your community. Just looking to really spread the word and train the trainers to address this housing crisis as quickly as we can. So at this point, we will start to take questions.
Yeah, maybe we'll... Cool, yeah, some came in. So we'll just take a few minutes to look at these questions that y'all shared.
Yeah, okay. And here from Kamala Parks about unbundled parking. So we'll flip back to the Connect tool. And the question is, would it make sense if the tool allowed you to indicate unbundled parking before it determines the low impact parking calculation? So, you'll see that we have a kind of default estimate for the parking needed, not considering any affordability or traffic reduction strategies. But once you start adding things like unbundled parking, you'll see instantly what the impact is in the yellow highlight. So if there's unbundled parking, and by specifying the price, if you enter like $100 a month, you'll see that the price itself is a big driver of all the metrics that you see highlighted in yellow.
Yeah, so I think correct me if I'm wrong, what you could do is you could not select any of the inputs and only select unbundled parking. And I think if you see down here, this value should light up with the predicted parking use based on only unbundling the parking.
Yeah.
So I think that would get at
and
what you're looking for.
Yeah, and we can isolate it here. So I'll just flip back to per unit per day. If you uncheck these, you can see the impact of just unbundled parking on its own. But in bringing those back, essentially that's how we've built in the comparison feature. Okay, another question from Aaron Brewster. We have here, have you done work to analyze how much on-street parking is associated with housing developments you've analyzed? So that is one of the top questions we get. We currently don't have that as part of this analysis, but we are on the verge of getting some funding to actually look at how much parking is impacted in the quarter-mile area surrounding our GreenTRIP certified projects. So at this point, this is only being collected would be collected for about 12 of the sites GreenTRIP certified developments that are built and occupied in San Jose. But if you know funding sources, we'd love to expand that to all of our certified projects to date, that are built and occupied. So we've have about 23 or so of our 50 projects that are built. But short answer, no. We haven't done that yet, as we are currently looking for funding to do so, but we're on the verge of that. Second question here from Aaron is, are there examples of where this tool has affected municipal parking requirements, general, not just project specific? So actually in the Connect tool, you'll see at the top what has been impactful is the parking database itself. And you can see in our partners and under policy adoptions, if you open that up, you can see where GreenTRIP in general has been integrated into a variety of agency policies around how development happens. So I'd say Connect actually directly impacted how BART decided to include affordable housing as part of their transit-oriented development strategy. And other cities that have more adopted certification standards into their code are listed here. And I will just also mention, I think we have here so besides the city partners, we don't have here, but the Office of Planning and Research has included GreenTRIP Connect as a recommended tool for cities to use as they update their general plans. I'd say the other piece that has also impacted policy is back to the GreenTRIP parking database, which you can access from our website here, database.greentrip.org. So this, because we had site-specific project information about parking use, the authors of AB 744, which reduced parking requirements across the state for TOD and affordable projects, that also was a direct support of that.
Yeah, and I'll add that back to our policy adoptions, we have our 5 cities that have built GreenTRIP certifications into their code, which does have, maximum parking requirements for the project. So if there's any city folks in the room, we're always looking for more city partners to incorporate GreenTRIP certification. Belmont is our latest GreenTRIP champion. But we have a question from Sharon Kirk to speak about the GreenTRIP certification requirements. So maybe now's a good time to just quickly mention GreenTRIP certification is our LEED style certification program for residential development. It looks at parking maximums, estimated driving maximums, and also requires either 1 to 3 traffic reduction strategies based on the location. And those are car sharing, transit passes, and unbundled parking. So those are the core requirements. We also have some kind of threshold requirements around bicycle parking, density, things like that. But we encourage you to check out our GreenTRIP certification website we have here that goes into more detail about that. Or just reach out to us and we'd be happy to walk you through the process if you know of any developments that you think would be a good fit for certification.
Right, I have a question from Sharon Kirk about do the assumptions for parking construction costs vary with the municipality area of the state? So no, it does not. We took a snapshot in time back in 2016 and essentially used that as a starting point. So of course we encourage you to adjust those as it makes sense for your community, and essentially this is where you would make those changes. Okay, another question here from Kamala. What do you assume about percent trips taken on transit, and what affects that number? So I encourage you again, check out the methodology. The formulas running under the hood of Connect were based on a report that Transform authored with the California Housing Partnership Corporation, and that report was essentially the justification for creating the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities program that is part of the state greenhouse gas reduction fund. And so that data, the data that informed the research and the report was all based on 2014 California statewide household travel survey information. So that's 40,000 households worth of data across the state, which allows us to extrapolate at the statewide level what essentially baseline travel behaviors are. So, yeah, and so in terms of VMT prediction, the four primary variables that predict household travel in our tool is income, location efficiency, household makeup, and regional context. And for the engineers in the crowd, the TDM portion, the transportation demand management and traffic reduction strategies, those are essentially post-model VMT reductions. So that's the car share, memberships, transit passes, and bike share. We have a very active Kamala. Thank you for your questions. So I'm just going down the roll, and unless there's
I think it's just these last two.
Okay, we just have two more questions. So from Kamala, how might this methodology change as automated vehicles and ride-hailing grows in use? It's a great question. I think it's, it's kind of chicken and egg in terms of when the data becomes available, and until there's that data and, kind of based on what our methodology is really, when would the next household travel survey be completed at the statewide level, and to what extent is autonomous vehicles already in place. Of course, ride-hailing is also underway, and at this point we don't have plans and don't have funding currently to modify the tool in that way, but are constantly open to feedback of our users. You'll note when you try to get to the project report, we try to get information about who's using the tool so that we can stay in touch with you. Question from Aaron Brewster. Can you calculate demand based on future planned transit service levels rather than existing? That also is a fabulous question. At this point, we don't have that capability. And again, it's definitely a function of finding funding and kind of looking at user interest and demand for how the tool is used. So I think our current focus is just to keep testing how this can support affordable housing advocacy, and essentially supporting that use case as a priority. But totally understand your question. All right.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So if there's any other questions, we're around for the rest of the hour. That went by really quick. But yes, we do encourage you to, again, share the report. Let us know how it works in your personal advocacy. There's maybe while we have a second, I'll just cover a couple of additional features. So you can both share the project evaluation report, or the Connect project report itself. So when you share a link from here, and we'll send this all to you so you can see directly. The entry point for the receiver of this hyperlink would be the report. But if you want to kind of keep it light and a little less complicated, you can go back to this area and just share the dashboard. So the dashboard essentially is that. You would, the receiver of this hyperlink URL would be as soon as you enter that and click on it, you would be, your entry point would be the dashboard itself rather than the project report page. And we actually put in here a link to us to email this link to us directly. Again, we're really interested and really want to hear how you're using it, what challenges you might be having, and again, we're taking requests now to go in greater depth at a training for your community group or organization.
We have another question from Aaron. Will you post the recording? Yeah, so we are recording. Barring any technical difficulties, we do plan to share the recording of this webinar.
Other features, I'll just keep going if we have time, is that if this looks super overwhelming, we actually created this click to hide details. In our focus group in feedback, especially from community folks, we found that it could be overwhelming to have to look at all these rows all at once. But just so you know, if you wanted to do that. Another feature is that you can change the baseline comparison. And so right now the default is to an average location within a county, but after hearing feedback from OPR, Office of Planning and Research, as they're working on creating guidelines for implementing SB 743, which is a statewide law that allows cities to move away from level of service towards vehicle miles traveled as the metric for transportation environmental impact. So in this case, we added both a comparison. You can compare either to the city as the average location. So now you can see, if this project with the units was built in an average location in the city, how much less driving and climate impacts there would be. And I believe it's about 15% less than the city or regional average is what 743 allows for. So you can change your comparison from that point. Okay. So thanks, Kamala. Your next question here, could you have different scenarios for the same report? For example, if you wanted to show single family, medium density, high density. So the tool does not look at single family. So essentially the way that we would encourage you to run that comparison is to essentially, you can build off of a starting point. So in this case, whatever your threshold is, what your community defines as medium low density, you can see here the dashboard instantly calculates a project density. And so you essentially could take this, you could essentially duplicate the tab, and that would create another starting point, and you could adjust the units from there. And so, as I mentioned, you could have then two instances. Actually, that's not how you do it. You would take the URL and open it up and then adjust it from there. So, so I can share the dashboard with myself. And you can see how this feature works. So now this should have all the same inputs as this other tab. Great, it works. And if you wanted to go, double that density, 140, you could then have essentially 2 dashboards going here. Is this looking too crazy? Okay, that's not really.
Well, there's also.
I practice this very well, but yeah.
Another idea. This isn't a built-in feature to compare scenarios, but you can create your different versions. Go to the project report, and like Ian mentioned, we do have a CSV export, to Excel, and that should help with your comparisons if you have a lot of scenarios. That's a more easy to use data format for making comparisons. So you just hit that, and it'll generate a CSV file with some of the helpful outputs. Sweet.
All right. Well, that's the end of our demonstration. We, again, really appreciate your time and happy to end early since there's no further questions. And, again, look forward to hearing from you all if you want additional help with using the tool and can recommend this to community groups. Oh yeah, one final thing is if you didn't watch the Connect video, this definitely is another aspect of the tool that you can launch from here. The video with support from Microsoft was developed so that we would essentially condense the motivation for building GreenTRIP Connect into a great story about what our goals are and more importantly visualizing how location, affordability, and traffic reduction strategies can enable us to better use our buildings. So the purpose of that video is really was understanding that your typical community member likely, if they're brand new to all of this land use transportation thinking, will likely, even as simple as we tried to make this Connect tool, would need that additional support with understanding why this all matters. And so if you can help us get the word out about the tool, a great starting point, especially for electeds and planning commissioners and neighborhoods, is literally sharing this video out. As we also heard from our city partners who helped guide the tool development, one of the hardest things that they faced was explaining all the connections and why do things like parking ratios and affordabilities, how do they actually impact real people in their lives? So please do share that video out widely and help us get people excited about participating in their communities. Yeah, and I'll just mention, so again, parking prediction, and you'll see this map kind of tells you that is only currently available in the Bay Area. We're on the cusp of getting funding to add more parking data points. Walnut Creek has reached out, for example, to help add to that, and hope to also fundraise soon to bring the city of LA has parking data that, again, pending funding, we hope to bring that in so that LA will have a parking prediction component. All right. So thanks again, everyone, for all your time and your interest. Super excited to hear from you and how this works. And with that, we'll hope to see you in person sometime. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.